Oh, so how was the weekend?
It was really good. It was really good. It was funny because when I woke up Sunday, because Frank had said he wasn't leaving until Monday.
Mm-hmm.
That was a long weekend, which cracks me up. And, I said something about tonight or something, meaning Sunday night. And he goes, well, I may need to go ahead and go on back. And I said, I knew it. I knew you couldn't do it. And he goes, do what? And I said, well, you said you take a long weekend or whatever. And what was funny is that I was done and he was done. It was like, yeah, you need to go back. And I
Mm-hmm.
said, well, if you could just leave not at noon, leave later in the afternoon because there are always things we're trying to finish up. And it's like, you rush out of here and it's like, you left half this shit undone.
Right.
So he left at about 3:30.
Probably antsy to get out.
It was very funny. It was, and I was like, I don't know how he thinks he can ever take a vacation when he can't even take a weekend.
Right. That's very unfortunate.
Well, it's just, it's about him, not me. So
No, I know. No, and I was going to say, I just know a lot of people who have spouses in that situation, kind of thing.
yeah,
Um, and the only vacation they ever talk about is vacation with, if it's only if it's like a family thing and they're visiting somebody, and it's like otherwise.
oh yeah, I'm not up for that. But
I'm like, well, that's not a vacation. That's a visit. They're two different things.
right, right.
So anyway,
So
yeah, it was
I was ready for him to go, and he was ready to go, so that worked out very, very nicely.
it was a very full weekend.
It really was. I mean, energy was shifting so much Friday afternoon after I went to that.
The thing with Jen and Mary.
Yeah, it was shifting so much that I could almost not function for the yawning. And it was just like, it's like I would yawn and I would have to just stop and go,
Let that be a full body yawn.
wow. And then, I'd do a few more things and then the next one would come up. And it was just like, I haven't had that much shifting go on that rapidly, except like on a retreat,
Mm-hmm.
where it's days of immersion. But
So funny you should say that. 3 days in a row now, I have dreamt about being at Shasta.
well, I'm just like, I'm sitting here going, okay, I need to get an alchemy bowl.
Mm-hmm.
How do I do that?
I'm going to take a road trip. I'll come.
I know. I'm sitting here going, I need to see Bev.
Mm-hmm.
I need to see Bev.
Well, the first night I ran into Bev in downtown, and I told her, "Hey, I gotta get with you because it's time for me to get a bowl from you. I need another one to go with my the one I have."
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, it was interesting because I felt that shift Friday. All week was such a weird freaking week. Like
It was
the oddest week that I can even remember.
it was like I was living all these different lifetimes all simultaneously, all like orchestrating. It's like having these, the spinning plates or whatever. And it was like, I don't know whether it was just sitting in more of a place of observation of that, but it was like I felt like I could do and be both places and all things at all times and just kind of observe it, but yet participate. It was bizarre, really.
It was. I mean, and just bizarre things happened all week, and I couldn't even tell you anymore what happened because I just had to deal with everything so fully at every moment. It was
I know. It was like, do we want to start recording or?
I already started recording.
Oh. Where have I been?
I asked if there's anything you wanted to say off the record. You said no. I said, all right.
Oh, okay. I didn't see the recording. Anyway, it's like all the things that had building all week personally, and I kept them in the notes on my phone, so I wouldn't lose them, but yet I could let go of them, kind of. Mm-hmm. So Friday, when I got some of Frank's attention, I mean, we literally sat on the phone for like an hour. And I had his undivided attention that whole hour. And I just like went through my list, and it was like, I could, at this point, that was Friday morning. And at this point on Monday morning, I couldn't even begin to tell you what we talked about or what was said. Mm-hmm. It's like, it's just, it was almost like it came up and it was almost instantaneously resolved, just speaking it. Mm-hmm. And now I can't grasp it. It's like smoke and gone. And it's like, I really don't want to dredge it back up because I needed it to be resolved. But it's almost like my mind going, did that really happen then?
Yeah, I know. Well, it's like thinking about some of the things I can remember, like the feeling of going through last week. And I remember having the crumbs of whatever come up early in the week, and observing a rant, that was coming through me. And I'm like going, that was last week. It feels like it was like a month ago now. Right.
Yeah.
And it was all of this stuff that had come up around, and I had several conversations with people about the only part that I remember very clearly had to do with that, like, part about feeling unsupported by those off planet. Right.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And, like, it's like, oh yeah, it's easy to tell people what to do, but when you actually have to do it yourself, it's a completely different thing.
Right.
It's like, okay, nobody has the experience better than those of us who are here on the ground, right? Otherwise we wouldn't be here on the ground. And the ones that, and it just, and nobody's better than, and it's us too. So the off-planet ones is us too. It's the part of us that doesn't, that wants to be hands off. And so there's that friction. And so, yeah, it was really interesting to see it come up because it came out of nowhere. And it was like this big old rage, and then it went away. Because I was like, well, this is me. I let it come through, and I didn't fight it. I just observed it, and I didn't project it. And I just sort of stepped back and retreated a little bit. And I was like, well, but I create that, right? So then that realization of sorry, now I have chia seeds in my teeth because I was drinking my the realization of that's all me, and it's my choice, and it's my creation. So ultimately, why am I still holding myself back and blaming it on something else? And then it's like, well, actually, I don't even need to know why. I'm done with it, so I'm just going to change it.
Right.
And that, came with that whole thing with creation that you had gone through, I remember. And it was like, no, right. So I could just go ahead and create that. So then something really big shifted Friday midday. And
I mean, it was
huge. And then, well, it was funny because Saturday, so then I had a very, very physically exhausting weekend because we had 5 hours of Kung Fu on Saturday because we had a workshop that was outside, and it was throwing and falling and rolling and all that kind of stuff. And then regular class and training. And then we worked on our deck outside, yesterday all day. So by last night I was spent, like, physically, and the funny part was I felt like I had been in meditation all weekend. Like, I felt like, I was like, oh, everything just flowed though. As full as it was, it was funny is we had dinner last night. My mother came over and she was asking me about this. So did you see this? And did you see this, like, on Facebook and my computer? I'm like, I haven't been on my computer all weekend.
Right.
was like, something popped up. It was on my phone. So, but, yeah, it's been really interesting. And then the sleep and the Shasta and the bizarre dreams in Shasta. And then, yeah, it's so different. And I can't even explain how.
Oh, I think the best way to describe it is that I stay at a different vibration now.
Yeah.
Which just changes my view of everything. And that, I don't know, it's almost like, gosh, 3 times ago, I don't know, where we talked about, you can't see this color if you can't see blue, or, and
if you can't see blue, you can't see purple, kind of thing.
Right. So it's almost like that has fully integrated, and that access to new things.
Yeah.
Or the remembering of them, because we, of course, know all this, but just that remembering has settled into the point where it's like opened. I don't want to say different. It's almost like seen through different eyes.
Yes, because where the rant that came out of nowhere, started last week, this weekend, it was like nothing could even faze me, like at all. Like there was nothing. It was total acceptance and total flow of, all right, whatever,
Well, the thing that I found that over the weekend was something that's really unusual for me is I found that I was really reaching down deep to things that I haven't not only been willing to acknowledge were there, but wouldn't look at, wouldn't even, I guess acknowledge is the best word. And I was like pulling them up and going, oh yeah, and it was like almost cathartic, going, oh, where's the next thing? Let's do this. Let's just, now that we've got this started, let's just do this. And I mean, it was just like bam, 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 all weekend long. And there were times where I felt sad and I would cry but I would see it from that place of, I understand where this came from. I understand the origin of this, and I understand that it was through these eyes, and I understand. And it was at probably as much gratitude as I could have for that place. But I no longer had that fear or that need for that to limit me anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And it was so personal.
Oh yeah.
Even though I knew it wasn't.
Well, and that's the funny part is it is the most personal stuff ever. And yet it is the most collective stuff ever simultaneously. Exactly. It is so interesting.
Exactly. And I would just, and I guess looking at it now, the reason why I could sort through it and move through it like I did is because it was personal. If it had been collective, I think if I'd gone into it looking at it with that collective mindset, it might have been too overwhelming.
Probably. Well, and we were all like sort of charged to take care of our part of it, right? So
right. And I mean, it was just massive, the whole process, and the volume of shit that just got dug out and turned into nothing.
Yep. Well, I realized it was just nothing. And so then I found the next thing was in recognizing that the next thing was not judging the journey to get there. Like why did that take so long? Or
why did I have to waste time being in this place?
And it's like, well, then that was the next thing for me to look at was, okay, so yeah, just accept that was perfect for whatever it needed to be,
Yeah. Well, the card I drew for today, which kind of, I don't think I've ever drawn it, is the Pyramid of Light.
Ooh, that sounds nice.
step your vibration deeper into love. And I thought, oh, well, that's really cool. That fits. And then when I looked in the little book, it says underneath the pyramid of light in parentheses, it says psychic protection. And I just went, hold the phone.
Yeah.
That's not something that I really feel the need for. So when I read it, I had a whole different light on the psychic protection and what it was talking about, which it was talking about, the dark entities and all that. And what I see that is just a reminder to integrate.
Of acceptance.
Exactly. And to integrate and accept those parts of me, because that is parts of me.
And that's really funny you said that, because as soon as you said that, it sparked off a memory from the Shasta dreams this weekend, where I was having a conversation with somebody about that, where someone was talking to me about something of light. So I don't know, it wasn't a pyramid thing, but it was something of light and blah, blah, blah. And I kept on saying, but the thing is for us to remember that it's all inclusive. There is no not, because that's duality.
Right.
So there is not anything in wholeness and oneness. There's nothing that is divorced from divine consciousness, even the darkness and the dark entities and the darkness within us. And instead of judging it, it's to see what it was there to show us, and reflect back to us. As, that discussion about Lucifer several weeks ago, came up in that whole, that's really where darkness was created from, was that separation we wanted to be able to see ourselves in the mirror with.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And that created contrast and all that kind of stuff. So it's really, really important. And I whoever it was I was talking to in that dream, I had said to them, it is so important, more than anything else right now, for us to not just sit there and be like, okay, I am and of course we always say I'm a beacon of light and all that kind of stuff. But when we become the key of the next level of understanding is when we truly are that beacon, it's an all-inclusive beacon.
Exactly. Yeah.
It means everyone is loved here. It's all me. Right? It's all inclusive. There's nothing excluded from here, even the darkest of the dark.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the way for us to come back to that wholeness. Yeah. So, and that's it's almost like that's where we are. And it's let's just tweak that one part. So that's including all the stuff. And because we create the darkness in judging what happened in the past.
Oh yeah.
Or what happened now. Or what's happened in other places, instead of accepting this is part of the bigger plan, and that's what I talk to a lot of people about right now too, is if you're guided to do something, do it. And if you're not guided to do it, then don't do it. Or if you're guided to not do it, then don't do it.
All with no judgment.
And no judgment, no ego. And that's the key, is that discernment. It goes back to that inner work to have that clear connection to higher consciousness, so that you are fully conscious. If it is a compulsion, a belief in obligation, there's someone, there are so many of us, and so much is intrinsic into this language, right, that we still use in spirituality, which is what I've been sitting, and it's funny, in redoing the website and whatever, it's been sitting back and watching the words that are being used right now. And what's still an interesting thing that I see a lot of is, it's your obligation to be of service.
Wow.
As light workers, right? As way showers, as rememberers, and I see that across the board, and it's it's your, now it's okay, it's okay to step in your power, but that's your obligation anyway. And it's it's not my obligation to other people. It's my obligation to myself. And that's because and that's a very smartly hidden egoic belief of, it is important for you to be of service to others. But that's okay in the way it's said that way, except that the ego then says, so then what am I supposed to do? Right? Instead of saying, no, actually me recognizing the wholeness of the divine that I am is this full service I could do to everyone else.
Exactly.
No matter what that looks like. So that doesn't mean you have to go out and you give up all your worldly goods to others. It doesn't mean you have to go out and sacrifice all your time. And if that's what you're guided to do, guided, not compulsed to make others believe that you are, you know, then that's great. And if you're not, that's fine too, but it's that recognition and realization of whatever it is you came here to do, and you just get tickled to death to do it. So do it. And it doesn't matter what that looks like.
Right.
But,
like if I'd been hung up on doing this for the collective this weekend, I probably wouldn't have been able to get through it.
Yeah.
But focusing on myself and looking at it from the perspective of self, and I'm doing it for the unconditional love that I have for myself, allowed it to flow and to be unconditional.
Yep. And this actually ties right into the quote that I posted this morning. Hold on a second. It was a Krishna quote. And it actually came up on my timeline from like a long time ago. And I was like, oh, that's really good and very, very like relevant right now. Change yourself to change the world around you, not just in small ways, but large ones. Make a new you, become who you really are, and your new existence will follow.
Right.
Because all of it comes from inside. And now it's like so important to say it over and over again of whatever, like instead of spending all this time worrying about what this is going to look like, what my marriage is going to look like, what my family is going to look like, what this, you know, like what my living situation is going to look like, instead of, and that's really where we lose ourselves, because we've become so materialistic and connected to what my life is supposed to look like.
Right.
And to attach to relationships in terms of like obligations and what it's supposed to be and what makes you a good wife or a husband or a parent or a child or, you know, whatever. And it's like, what makes us the best of what we are is being the best of what we are. And that means like truly acknowledging what it is that makes us sing or be blissful, you know, and be in bliss in every moment, because that's where everyone gets inspired to follow.
Right.
Because everybody says, I want that too. Like, I want that too. Like, yeah.
And it's an attraction that is core attraction. It's not ego. It's not, it's something that they can't turn away from.
Right.
Which that is what's most important in my mind for the evolution of all of this. Or the recognition of how it can be already here.
Yeah. And the other thing that I'm getting to talk about really just to mention here is what brought you bliss last week doesn't have to bring you bliss this week.
That's right.
And that's where many of us are getting stuck, right? Because it's like, oh, well, that was freaking awesome. But I don't know if I really want to do it, but I'm going to do it because, you know, I started doing it. So I'm going to continue doing it.
Right. Well, and I've invested all this in it. So I feel that I should continue to do that.
Right. Which is attachment. And that and these are so subtle, such subtle things for us to notice, because we don't recognize how much, you know, once we okay, well, I started down this path and I committed to it, so I'm going to stay in it. And it's like, yeah, but maybe you're only supposed to be here for this period, you know, this period. And now you're supposed to go, maybe the next thing is you had to do this to open up the door to do this, to open up the door to do this. And it's really to be open to allowing what comes next or what comes now.
And it used to be, in my opinion, that vibrations were so different even 2 years ago that it took longer to get what you needed from certain circumstances, or it had that appearance.
Yeah.
And now it's like, you know, you could be committed to 3 different diametrically opposed things all in one day.
All in one day.
And that's the way, that's where we create now.
Yeah. And that's the presence. That's that 100% presence in the now of, you know, maybe I'm guided to go sing a song, like, or maybe I'm guided to work on my deck or to do this or to practice martial arts or to meditate or to, help somebody with something or not, or help myself with something or whatever comes in the moment is so like, or even cook a meal. Like it's all like, it all becomes equally, there's no hierarchy. It's all allowing that fullness in every moment,
Right. Right. Exactly.
So it's like, there's no better or worse.
Every moment.
Every freaking moment. I know, it's crazy, awesome, and yet almost impossible to explain, even with the words we're using, because it's just a completely different.
And I think that it's sped up to the point where the mind can't get a hold of every piece, which allows you to just let that go.
Yes.
Which, that's a huge relief. I mean, for me, it was a huge hurdle because I had that need to control.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, I can't let go. No, I can't let go.
And that's like, pretty much everyone. So,
and allowing that to just, and trusting that it's you've set the stage to allow what needs to be. So why do you have to control it?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
That feels really good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what I kept on coming up against last week, when I remember the larger picture, and I was looking at that this morning a little bit before we got on in meditation, was there's something, because I asked, so like, let me see anything that, is important for us, to come up today for us. So what I found really important was something having to do with, God, it was so subtle. It was, and I'm not going to get the words right, so I'm just going to say how it comes to me and see if you can, like, we can put it together. It was sort of like, how you said that you just went in for yourself and you didn't go in for the collective, even though we know that it's the same thing.
Always, right.
But there's something, it's almost like we still have a hierarchy. Like there are some things that we allow the collective to dictate.
Yep.
Even inside of our own journeys.
It's almost like we still have a certain set of presets that we are allowing to stay into place as like an old safety net.
Right. And from the collective, we also had things of like, and then from the collective consciousness, there are things of judgment when we start, as we all start breaking away from those presets, right? Because there's still a collective belief of control, right?
Well, and that ensured that we stayed in separation.
Right.
Which, of course, you'd have that.
So it's like it's such a little thing, but it's actually a really big thing.
And it's like my third chakra just goes, wait a minute.
I know.
I'm not sure you want to do this. I'm not sure you know what you're doing here.
I certainly need to do a bio break, so I'm going to put this on pause. Okay, back from that. Yeah, so there's something, and it's a really uncomfortable for us to look at, so it's very mobile, like it just moves like Mercury.
Well, and it's funny because as I sit here and try to put into words what it is I'm talking about, I automatically wrote the word safeguards, which just to me says, oh, we put it in place to keep us safe, which, what's the opposite of safe? Unsafe, which invokes the fear, which.
Right. Well, and there was
our prime motivator these days.
Yeah. Well, and especially when you hear it from the collective, right? And then you start getting things that are funny. And I can't even remember, gosh, there were several things that happened last week. And I was like, seriously. Like, and it was the, it's like getting pulled over for a ticket, right? Because it's the collective saying, slow down. No, you can't do this, right? Well, I had that happen like several years back, and I changed that. But then there was something that reminded me of that last week, and I can't, that's so funny because it just seems so long ago now, but I remember thinking, oh, there it is again. But it was a breath. Like literally it was a breath.
Yeah. It's almost like a flutter.
Yeah. And I'm like, let me see if I can remember that. So I felt like my going to like the whole like being called to jury duty. I think that I felt like that was oh no, you have to serve in this way. And I was like, no, I don't.
Yep.
And I was like, nope. I actually no. I asked my guidance, and my guidance was, and I did start seeing myself not being there. Like, and I kept on trying to envision it, and it's like, nope. And every time I'd see it, I would see another part of me with these big wings that would just basically obscure the whole thing. Going, no, not necessary. Don't need to, know. And then turned out I didn't need to go. Now I am on call, so we're gonna have to make sure that's all tweaked because I am on call. I have to check in later on today to see if they need more, but I'm not feeling it. So
yeah.
So but like to me, it's like anything where you're asked to serve, like that's a collective, governmental level, a higher level, hold on a second. A higher level of something that would, indicate collective. To me, that's like the shadow of, no, you still are here to serve the whole. And it's like, well, no, but there's no difference, right?
Right.
So, but there's like all of these like things that have been come up, and they're like like you're saying, a flutter. Like, and I'll see it, and it's almost gone when you go to look at it, kind of thing.
Right. It's almost it's like it's always there, but if you try to focus on it, you can't.
Yes. So I
feel that.
Yeah, I feel that too, because I'm like, so there's something about aligning. Wow, there's just so much to talk about.
Well, and is it that I was thinking that the flutter was what needs to be different. But actually, is it we need to align with what that subtlety is?
Well, but it's sort of like it's a multifaceted thing. That's why I can't
Of course.
So it's like aligning with. It's like saying, because I'm feeling like there's a lot of us right now that are to this point, that we're at this point of.
It's the verge
of coming into the full peace and resonance and alignment within ourselves, and having these flutters that turn into frictions with things that look like, collective. And that goes along with that feeling being unsupported last week, because it was almost like, well, why is this a fight? Why is this, like da 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 da.
Right.
But it's like coming into an alignment, and this is that little thing I saw in a breath, in meditation this morning. It was like, so part of it, I guess, is I acknowledge it, I acknowledge you, and I understand, and I remember. And how about we all remember as the collective that we agreed at this point that some of us would pull the whole collective forward,
right,
by superseding all that or transcending it. And that's the card I keep on pulling, is the transcendence cards, right? And so that's not quite the words, but it's almost like saying, it's not saying screw you, it's saying I acknowledge this and honor this, like, yeah, I understand this is the way we put it together. And we also put it together this way so that we can start making steps to change the parameters.
Right. And allow that. Ooh. Oh, okay. So if we, like you were just saying, if some of us agreed to do, to almost like branch out and to do this to allow us to pull or raise or whatever word you want to put with that. What if the hesitation, the resistance, the fear is that takes us by separating, takes us further into separation instead of the opposite?
Well, that makes sense. Totally. So when we acknowledge and honor it and say, okay, there's no resistance there. It's like, I see it. I see your point. I'm honoring that, except I'm also, there's the seeds of remembrance. We came here to hold the seed to help to sprout it so that we change the parameters, and it's okay and it's safe as perceived.
It's like a different version of separation.
Yeah.
Which, even in the spiritual world, it's removing separation.
Mm-hmm.
But this level of separation is
it's a step. It's a step, right. We agreed to take.
And granted, it's an illusion,
mm-hmm.
as all of separation is, but yet so that's the resistance. That makes so much sense.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, okay. Yeah. Because the separation it's not separating to separate. It's separation to change and expand our parameters.
Right.
To shift it, to help the shifting in the way we felt was going to be the highest and best. Right.
Right.
And can that change in every moment? Absolutely. And it's for all of us to stay so attuned to that guidance, from the higher consciousness, which is us too. Right. So there's reassurance in there of, safety, because we have such a thing about safety going on. And it's like, well, there's no such thing.
I know.
And safety is so subjective. What are you safe to do? I mean, I could be sitting in my house and something could fall out of a plane and land in my house, come through the roof and smash me any second. So you just don't know. Or a tree could fall, it's just, I could walk outside and just something weird slip and break my neck on something, the people think of all this stuff and safety. And it's like, well, safety is really a relative term, and it's an egoic term. And so for us and so of course there's collective ego, right? Which that's what we're tending with. And we had talked about another week, maybe that was last week. I'm not sure.
I don't know. I think it was
the higher aspects of the ego, right? And there are higher aspects of the ego, and there is still ego. And to say, okay, we chose and agreed to this separation. And at this point to have another sort of faction, not even faction, but just a piece of separation to allow, while this space is being held, to allow the space to change. It's almost like that's the space holding for all of us to do. But in doing that space holding is to free ourselves from those old parameters.
Right.
Because for us to hold that space is to be beyond it and transcendent to it.
Right.
So that changes so many little things that we don't even see within our realities. It was like this. That was my biggest thing about, and even if I still got called on standby or whatever, I'd be like, well, the nature of what I do is that I don't judge anybody. How can I judge somebody on a jury?
Right.
How could I do it? I don't see anything as right and wrong anymore. I see it is what it is. I can tell you what the purpose of it is. Hey, can I sit as a consult on the trial?
Right.
And see what the purpose was for everybody involved. But that's starting to see things in a very different light and saying, okay, so I don't need to be a part of that anymore because I'm helping to set this new parameter for what that is. So the thing is, don't punish me for it. Right.
Wow.
Or don't make me feel like I'm handicapped because of it, or have to be handicapped because of it, or all that kind of stuff. But of course, that's me allowing that to happen too. Right.
Right.
At the same time to say, And that's where I feel like that acknowledgement and honoring of all parties involved, all pieces and parts of the collective and the bigger collectives and the avatars and everything else, to say, it's okay. It's okay to do this differently now than it's been ever been done. Right. Oh. It's okay because that's what we planned. Right. And it's not wrong to hold the old parameters if that's what your guidance is to do. And again, it goes back to guidance and listening to the higher consciousness, because we all know the game plan at that core level, right?
Yeah.
We all do know it. And so we've been going through the practices of untraining ourselves of even the smallest little things that we still hold ego and expectations in, right? We've been talking about expectations a lot the last couple of weeks. But it's and how expectations are connected to the ego. And so I can't tell you how many conversations I've had with people where it just turns into expectations, right? Expectations of a certain relationship and how the interactions are supposed to go, because that's how it's always been, or that's how it's been lately. Or, I talked to somebody
last week. The subtlety of that, of creating through expectations.
Yeah. Instead of just saying, what is it now? Like, what are we here for now?
Right.
And it's a new paradigm for us to live in, to not be attached to anything in the way to say, well, so we do this week. Do we need to do it next week? Yeah, we'll see,
Right. Maybe not.
Maybe not. Maybe do I need to do this tomorrow? Or is this important for me to do now? And it seems a little discombobulating, because it seems scattered to some, but it's as long as the guidance is true.
Well, and it's truly fluid living.
Yes. Yeah, existing at all levels. And it is living at it is having conscious understanding and remembrance of all of these different facets. And then we start seeing everybody else in the same eyes anyway, because it's all different lifetimes. Like your lifetime is just another one of mine, kind of thing.
Right.
And so, and that's when we take out time and space. And I've said that before, and it sort of blows people's minds to say, well, time is only a construct that we've created for measurement, right?
Right.
So if we say, and we know we have multiple lives, like multiple meat jackets that we choose and different places and different times, blah, blah, blah. So say we take out time, it's all simultaneous. So you and I, what's to say you and I aren't the same soul in two different lifetimes, just in corresponding, times.
Right.
That sort of blows people's minds, because they think, what?
Right. Well,
but then that takes away us being separate anyway, because we are each other, just having different facets of the same experience.
Right.
So.
Well, and if you think about it, like I was talking about what I was doing last week with my little bubble. And it was like I was in the bubble, and everything that's in my reality at the moment is under my direction within the bubble. And who's to say that you don't have your bubble and we're doing different things in each other's bubbles?
Right. I mean, just don't even think about it.
No, it's but it really put me in a place of feeling, and I hate to use the word control, but feeling empowered to create every facet of how I want things to feel, taste, touch, smell like in my reality, in my bubble.
Correct. Yeah. Yep. And it really is just acceptance of everything, of everybody's bubble reality, however you want to look at it. It's, and things that I see all the time, right? Oh, so much sadness for this going on with this person, or so much, and it's like, but that's their creation. And I don't say that without, like, people think that's without compassion. It's like, no, when we truly love and honor each other's journey, we recognize there's a purpose for everything within everybody's reality, right? Or else it wouldn't exist. And sometimes it's for theirs, sometimes it's for somebody else's, like that they agreed to do. Sometimes it's a bigger picture, a collective lesson of remembrance, because we're not listening to the messages at the individual level, which, I mean, we talk about this all the time, but this really brings it home at a different level to say it's a different level of acceptance.
It really is.
Because when we are fully empowered, we can accept that everybody else is.
It's an empowering surrender.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. I was going to say, and we can recognize everybody else is empowered, even if they choose to be the victim to something, right? That's the same kind of thing. Empowering surrender. It's like, so when we truly sit in space, again, we go back to that. We've talked about that, sitting in that space of love and acceptance for everything around, and it goes back to just taking others out of the equation. It's like whatever your guidance tells you in this moment, because it's, goes back to this like immense level of trust, even if we don't see it right in front of us.
Right.
And I think all of this has been the unraveling. What I'm seeing is like the unweaving at the loom of all of these things that we're not even conscious of abiding by anymore.
It's almost like the forces that held the weaving together are what we're working on right now.
Yeah. So that we can allow it to
just naturally
flow apart. Yeah.
Right. Oh, wow.
Yeah. That's really powerful.
That really is.
Yeah. So we call it a force. So whatever that is, right?
Yeah. that
maybe we can't quite put a name to or a word to.
It's almost like it's the evolved version of gravity.
Yeah. Creating something completely different.
Right.
So I can't even put any more words to that. It's like, nah. Yeah. To a help. Yeah. It's just like this, to allow ourselves to be that I want to say force, but you know what I mean?
It's almost the opposite of the force.
Yeah. Well, so to allow ourselves to be the energy, or to be the whatever it is, to help it, to allow it to change. I don't know. There's no words to it.
There really isn't, but boy, I can feel it.
To be that, for those of us who are called to be that, to have the freedom. We've been talking about authentic freedom for the past several weeks, right? The freedom to do that in a way that flows and is easy. Yeah. I want to say for all involved, but that's all relative too, for whoever,
Right. It's almost like it's you talk about the forces of nature. It's almost the next level out from that.
Right.
Is allowing that to.
So it's like, this is what comes to mind. It's like saying what many of us see as the avatars, right? Which is a higher consciousness that we all belong to, right? So, but at the very earthly terms, what we call the gods and goddesses and stuff like that level of energy is what we're changing.
Right.
The way of creation, the way of
the separation rules we have around creation.
So, oh yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, because everything that's created based in separation perpetuates separation. So if you allow those rules, if you let go of those rules, then there's a new set that have different parameters around creation. Or around everything, actually.
I can still feel that in my solar plexus.
Yeah. Yeah. There's still that molecule or two going, yeah, you just don't know what you're messing with right here.
I know. But we do. And maybe it's that allowance to, well, and here's the thing. When we fully remember that bigger level, right? It by far surpasses all of the ones that are smaller levels of it, right?
Right.
So it again, I don't want to say challenges, but it sort of, so all right, so for lack of a better word, it sort of challenges us, because then we start seeing things differently, right? Which we're doing.
Right.
With acceptance, even some of the darkest, what's considered some of the darkest things at the lower levels, then we see them in a bigger light.
Right. Right. Right.
And that's what the collective is afraid of for some reason, something along around there, because I can feel that. Oh, that makes me want to puke a little bit.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Just a little. Yeah, it's right
But
around
at the same time, I can feel that sigh of relief to be letting go of the judgments that we felt we had to hold all of this into place, because it's so artificial.
It is. Oh, there's the yawn. Woo, there's a big one.
Yeah.
And Obi just came in, so Obi. So, yeah. Because think of how many levels of us we believe that, like say something needs to be wiped away or something in the bigger picture, it's important to wipe. It goes back to that angels of destruction thing, right?
Right.
Sometimes it's best to just topple the tower.
Yeah, rather than brick by brick.
And yet so many would say, no, 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 like this is awful to do this. And look at how much suffering and pain.
It's inhumane.
Right. And so this is, and to remind anybody watching or listening, this is all from a place of love and unity and seeing the biggest picture, right? Because there's nothing but love at the end of the day. And if we're doing it, if it's that understanding from a place of wholeness, it just changes the perspective. And I hear these panicked voices in the collective just even approaching on that.
What I hear is, oh shit, they really got to this place.
Right? It's like, wow, I just hear so many panicked voices going, wait, no. And then there's all this judgment, right? Because there's so much, yeah. So it's for us to be able to stay in a place of love and unity and guidance and trust beyond what is the judgment of others, whether it be individual or collective, or even of any of the facets of the divine that still try to hold on to the old regime or the old parameters, right? The former parameter, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, there's just so much to this. Okay, so no more words. I'm just going to say all of this because the more we talk about it, the more it's like,
Right.
So whatever, so that we maintain that transcendence, that clarity, the centeredness, love, acceptance, remembrance. this unraveling force. Like I just can't even think of any word that would even come close to explain what it is. So
No,
um,
and
it's like owning it. It's like owning that force, whatever it is.
right, and it's through judgment. I feel the need to change the word destructive, but it's allowing that vibration through us to be that instrument of change in all that's held in this vibration.
Yeah.
That feels amazing.
Yeah. All right. Let's go do, shall we?
Yes.
Apparently my cat didn't like that because he just started nipping at my feet saying, no, I'd rather play. Wow, that was bigger than a bread box.
Yeah.
Power. Like that was like really an incredible amount of power. Which, yeah.
In the beginning, I saw us. I don't know really how to describe it, but it was like we had compacted these huge bodies, wings, everything into these tiny little things. And it was like we were finally standing up and stretching and feeling that full.
Yes.
And all the, oh God, I've been bent over for eons and it's like stretching the legs and the wings. And it was just like coming into that, releasing that small mindedness.
Yes.
And boy, that
see him, look. He's climbing up the wall over there. I don't know what he's chirping about. Go ahead. Yeah.
It was that visual of how small we've been living.
Yes. I saw something equivalent, like, what is that called? Cattails that comes into bloom that has like the big brown head to it, and then when it goes to seed, it just goes.
Yeah,
that's what I saw, and it was like, once that happens, you can't go back to the seed pod. You just right. Gotta go with it. And it was like, right, because we've been fighting for so long, right, and holding those old parameters. Like, oh well, let me fight myself back in there. So we're constantly at friction with ourselves, right? And it's like, nope. It's time. It's totally the same feeling. And it was just so freeing, so powerful, and so huge.
And it was like there was that level of remembering where it was like, oh yeah, I totally know this is the right thing to do. I totally know that I totally remember all of this. And then the physical going, oh, this is kind of uncomfortable because I've been so small.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so used to not having this movement, this range of motion, whatever.
Right.
And that hesitation, that moment of hesitation of, am I really supposed to be doing this?
Yeah. Yep. Well, now it's like, well, there's no hesitation because it's too late now anyway.
It's done. Right. Yep.
Sorry, the pod's been popped.
Right.
Yeah, that was really nice. Wow. Can't wait to see what this week brings.
I know, really. Oh, and it's so funny. I'm going this weekend to something called Rattlesnake Roundup.
Oh, fun.
Which is exactly they do it every year.
I've heard of it, I think.
Yeah, well, it's in the town where Elise and Frank have been living. And so they have to make sure they have all the anti-venom and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, it's I kept seeing the snakes just going, you know what? I don't think we'll come this year.
Snakes have been really front and center a lot lately, too. I saw something, it was interesting that you said that, because what came to mind was, I'm like, wow, the snake energy has been really dominant, right? So like the shedding of the old, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
But I saw something online last week about there's like a massage, like a snake massage, where they actually take like 4 boas and let them like just
squeeze you,
like slide all over your body kind of thing. And there's a facilitator who like and I thought that'd be interesting. I mean, because they apparently, you spend time before and make sure you're comfortable with the snakes and stuff. And then they showed this woman doing it, and she was laughing the whole time, going, God, this feels so weird.
Yeah, I'm just not sure I could do that.
Yeah, but I thought, wow, talk about the powerful transformational energy.
Oh yeah, I bet.
And coming to peace with that energy within ourselves. I mean, what a great thing to do with that, right? This was, I think, in Europe, which Europe starts all those funky things for us.
Yeah.
But I was like, wow, like look at the symbolism of that. I mean, they're not huge. They're, like 4-foot boas, so they're not going to try to eat you.
Right.
Yeah. But that's pretty interesting. And so they always do like 3 or 4. Yeah, it was just so funny. And the woman's like laying there like, okay, this is pretty crazy.
Yeah, I would think so.
No, that's an interesting thing. Well, can't wait to hear how that goes.
I know. I think it will be interesting.
As for me, since I had blocked off this week, obviously now I will have the space to do. I actually have a couple of sessions that have been like staying out there because I was like, well, let me wait until I find out if I have to go to jury duty or not. But beyond that, that'll mean I can dedicate and then share at my house at the end of the week. I could dedicate the week to whatever I'm guided. But yeah, there's a lot. There's so much to share right now, really.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So we'll see. All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining. Have a great week. We'll talk to you next week.
Bye.